with Immortal Empires introducing two Chaos Undivided factions into multiplayer. Belagor, the very first Prince of Chaos, is also being brought onto the stage. He is a really strong lord with the Shadow Lord magic and a bunch of other abilities and buffs, including this Shadow Shroud, providing him with 40% damage resistance, the Dark Master lowering melee attack of a certain target, and also a bunch of other abilities to regenerate and lower leadership of surrounding units. A really strong lord in general, and today in Mr. Tefill's High Elf army, he was dedicating a lot of resources to take down this scary legendary Chaos Demon Prince. And for the army build, we have a lot of elites right here at the back, the Keepers of the Flame, Regiment of Renowned Phoenix Gods, and over here, Everqueen's Court Gods, Regiment of Renowned Sisters of Averlorn that also provides additional magic regeneration. For melee infantry, there are a bunch of spears surrounding these expensive missiles. They'll be fending off Chaos Mobility to let the Everqueen's Court Guard fire. On the left, a single unit of White Lines of Strays, and in the middle, a couple Silvern Guards holding the front line, bolstered by a Sword Masters of Hoeth. And that's basically it for the main army of High Elves. In the skies, we have leading the army an Archmage of High Magic, bringing in multiple spells including Hand of Glory, which is really key here to upgrade that reload skill of the Sisters of Averlorn. Apotheosis for healing, as well as Tempest in case they need to trap flying units. And well, over here, Belagor does have the attribute of flying, so the Tempest would be really key in pinning down the Demon Prince. For skirmishing forces, we have 3 Illyrian Reaver archers, and that's basically it. For the Chaos Undivided army, we have a front line of Marauders here. At the back, a bunch of Chaos Warriors with great weapons, and also a single Mirror Guard, very cost-efficient melee fighters. They have great armor, high missile block chance, amazing stat line as a Regiment of Renown, and also the physical resistance marked by Slaanesh themselves. For cavalry, there's a lot of mobility in this Chaos army, with an abundance of Marauder horsemen, 4 of them in total on the left flank, and on the right flank there is a bunch of Hell Striders for their anti-large mobility. In the middle of all these cheap mobility chaff, a single unit of elite cavalry, the Skull Crushers of Khorne, is here. Marked by the Blood God, they have enhanced offensive capabilities. And yeah, that's basically it for the army builds. Now let's go straight into the action itself. Right off the bat, the Illyrian Reavers are doing what they do best, and that is skirmishing, chipping away the health of a bunch of Chaos Infantry, but then again, the heavy armor on the Chaos Warriors and the dirt cheap Marauders aren't exactly the greatest target, so they'll be switching their sights over to the squishy Hell Striders. Despite their bronze shield, their paper-thin armor means that they'll be taking noticeable damage from the archer fire. However, they do have the 100 speed, easily catching up with all these Illyrian Reaver archers, especially with the poison slowing them down. At the back here, Belagor is being welcomed by a massive Tempest. He immediately lands, but Tempest has been revamped, targeting all flyers regardless they're in the air or on the ground. Between Tempest's spell damage and the Everqueen's Court Guard firepower, he has taken noticeable damage. He does rely on a lot of that physical resistance, 20%, so even with the 25% missile resistance, he is not exactly immune to most of that missile damage, especially with the armor piercing. So to retaliate, Belagor drops down a Pit of Shades onto the Sword Masters, sacrificing a Marauders to pin them down for that spell cast. The Sisters right now are buffed up by Hand of Glory with increased reload speed, though unfortunately only part of the unit can shoot Belagor with their positioning. Finally, they're turning around to shoot, but unfortunately the Hand of Glory buff is almost wearing off. Then again, under all this crossfire from the Illyrian Reaver archers and the Everqueen's Court Guard, Belagor is already under half health, now using Shadow Shroud to protect him from incoming missile fire. At the same time, the Skull Crushers are charging into the front line, trying to run down some Silvern Guard, charging through their own men. This is not exactly the greatest charge, but still, they do have the armor piercing to dish out the pain. Belagor right now avoiding that middle engagement, trying to circle around the battlefield with his mobility forces and get into the back line. But it seems that he has changed his mind, charging straight into this mess of an infantry blob fight. The White Lions are broken by the Demon Prince, but the Keepers of the Flame are holding. These elite Phoenix Guards do have the stats to hold back all the infantry and even Belagor himself, but with the Skull Crushers pushing through and threatening the Everqueen's Court Guards, the Keepers of the Flame will be pulled back. While at the back here, some spears and the Illyrian Reaver archers will be rushing in, trying to pin down the Skull Crushers and push them back, while the Everqueen's Court Guard will be retreating. At the same time, despite the Marauder horses are being held back by the spears, some sneaky Hell Striders were able to sneak through the gaps. Luckily for the High Elves, they have taken significant damage and will be routed as soon as these Elarian Reaver archers charge into melee combat. The great thing about Elarian Reavers is that they do have decent melee stats, so they can be doubled as a melee cavalry in an emergency. Another Pit of Shades is targeting the elite High Elf infantry, but an Apotheosis will be sustaining the hit points of the Keepers of the Flame. Thanks to the added fear effect from the spell, these Marauders will be routed by the Apotheosis. The Skull Crushers as well being pushed back by the Spears and the Elarian Reavers combined. While at the back here is another mosh pit of cavalry units, the Horsemen charging in hoping to silence these Elarian Reaver archers, but they are quickly routed by the Healthy Reavers and the fear effect from the High Mage on her Eagle. While over here we can see the Be'lakor charging into combat yet again, trying to rout off these spears. Unfortunately being targeted by the Everqueen's Court Guard, who will be taking significant damage, but there will probably be some healing coming in from his ability, the passive Lord of Torment, providing healing and extra magic regeneration when there are any wavering troops or even routing troops around him. However, there's only a single unit routing around Be'lakor, so that doesn't necessarily do the most healing, especially with the Everqueen's Court Guard being absolutely relentless with their shooting. Some Marauder horses are being thrown in trying to silence these sisters, but they are blocked off by the spears and reavers. As for the infantry fight, the High Elves have dominated the front line, with the spears pushing off the Marauders, Silverin Guard holding as well. There are some Mirror Guards still fighting against the Silverin Guards and the Sword Masters. Even the Skull Crushers are charging in to help, but this will not exactly be a good fight for them, as the armor piercing on the Sword Masters and their impressive fighting stats, 49 melee attack and 49 melee defense, thanks to the martial mastery. The Skull Crushers and Mirror Guards will be going down fast. Be'lakor trying to go for one last charge, but a massive volley of firepower from the Everqueen's Court Guard upgraded Hand of Glory as well. They're just pelting volley after volley of magical armor-piercing missiles with fire effect, limiting his potential healing. At this point, not even the Shadow Shroud can save Be'lakor from the devastating firepower, and the victory shall belong to the Azur. GG to both players here, and big thanks to Mr. Tufel for sending in this replay. For the battle performances, the High Elves army here did a really good job holding the box using the sturdy front line of Silverin Guard and Sword Masters, with some of the spears on the flank, delaying the advance from the Warrior of Chaos, protecting the Everqueen's Court Guard and shooting down Be'lakor. You can see that the sisters did some amazing damage, almost 3k worth of value. They definitely destroyed the Demon Prince. Also, the mobility game was really good as well, using the Elarian Reaver archers charging in to zone out the Skull Crushers, using their mass to pin down these elite cavalry, and then the spearmen to follow up, repelling these elite shock cav, allowing the Everqueen's Court Guard to survive and continue their shooting. And then there are the Sword Masters cleaving their path through the Chaos Warriors and Marauders. Then the Keepers of the Flame as well, just constantly holding back a tide of Chaos units. As for the Archmage, not a lot of damage, mostly using the Tempest to pin down Be'lakor and also fly around healing units with Apotheosis. White Lions, as usual, really crap in terms of performance. Being a mid-tier, all-purpose armor-piercing infantry, they actually got crushed by the Chaos Warriors and the Be'lakor's melee attacks as well. As for the Warriors of Chaos, you can see that not a lot of damage across the board, mostly because they were not engaging in good targets. Marauders and Chaos Warriors are repelled by the combination of Spears, Silverin Guard, and the Sword Masters, and Be'lakor got destroyed by the Sisters. Skull Crushers, not exactly the greatest use of them because of how narrow and tiny this map, the Glacial Lake, was. There was not a lot of space for flanking, and the Spears had a relatively easy time to screen off these flanking units of horsemen and also Hellstriders. Even if they'd managed to flank around, the Elarian Reavers can just charge in, sacrifice their own lives to block off these Chaos Cavalry, and then the anti-large infantry like the Keepers and the Spears can follow up and drag down the cavalry. And yeah, that's basically it for today's battle. I hope viewers you enjoyed these replays, and if you want to see more, be sure to hit the like and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to see more Total War Warhammer multiplayer, be sure to hit the subscribe button to get notified every time I upload a new video. They will be covering more battle replays like this one, wild army builds, and also tips and strategies for Total War Warhammer multiplayer. And if you have any replays of your own that you want to showcase, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check them out. And yeah, that's basically it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Glitch, signing out.